Oh, hello again everyone, welcome back, thanks for visiting once again. Today what I'm going to do is take a quick look, and it probably will be quite quick actually, at the Gloster E28 39 Pioneer. This is a 1/48 scale model that I've acquired from a friendly local internet to me, I've bought it for the express purposes of what I think some people describe as a commission build. Someone whom I know has asked me to produce one of these as a keepsake, he is going to prefer it in these colours actually, I think, because there are two variants, of which more later. So I've agreed to do this, so that's why I've acquired this. But I don't know what you all know about the Gloster Aircraft Company. Gloster was called the Gloucestershire Aircraft Company, but apparently visitors couldn't pronounce the name particularly easily, so it was slimmed down to Gloster, Gloster. Now, E2839 is the project number, or the contract award number, that was given by the Air Ministry, and E28 was the 28th project of 1939. And that's how these things were numbered. So the Pioneer is one of the names given to this aircraft. I was unfamiliar with the appellation Squirt. I've never heard that before, but I know someone who I can ask whether that's in fact an actual name given to this aircraft or not. But it was called the Gloster Whittle, it was called the 2839, it was called the Pioneer. But really was the first serviceable platform for Sir Frank Whittle's what was known as WU1 turbojet engine, which he developed over the previous I don't know, 5 to 7 years or so. But the actual history of it goes back a little bit further. I'll write a little bit about this in my Substack, and I will put in a notification to you all when that comes out, which shouldn't be too long. I'm working on it now as it happens. But anyway, the E2839 was the platform for the WU1 Whittle Unit 1 turbojet engine, the aircraft itself was used, I think, between 1941 and 1944. When it was removed from service. At that point, the Gloster Aircraft Company had produced the Meteor, and there are a number of examples of the Meteor around that you can buy, from the very early Marks, Mark 1s and Mark 2s, right up to the Mark 9s, I think, and Mark 10s. So there are plenty of opportunities. Not so many of these, but as I said, this is a commission build from somebody who will remain nameless, who wants an example of this. So I'm going to build it for them, but I will be videoing certain aspects of the build. It won't be a very long build because, as you will see, there's not very much to this. So let's take a look inside. It's a side opening box for them that's interested, as usual I have had a look at this before, I had to cut short my review of that then because the phone rang again and the dog barked, and so it got, it's the usual thing for me anyway. So got a set of instructions, we've got a bag of parts, and one of the parts actually had already fallen off the sprue, but I'm going to withdraw the other bits and pieces so you can see them all here. We'll put our little bag over there out of the way. So we have a pack of decals and also some photo etch. I'll talk about that in a minute. The clear part, so the canopy is all moulded in one. I'm not going to risk removing a section to do canopy open. I think that would be quite risky, and if things went wrong it would be, well, let's put it like this, it wouldn't be good. But anyway, there we are. So yeah, two sprues and the instructions. I'll take a look at the instructions myself with you at our leisure here, and we'll take a look at the parts. But so what we have is the parts list here, so the sprue listing. Now, somewhat unusually for models, normally you would expect the sprue frames to contain numbers. There's an A sprue, and there is a letter A on this somewhere, which I can find in a minute. It's somewhere about anyway, but there are no numbers on the sprues, so you have to orientate the sprue thusly so that you can actually see the numbers here, and that will then allow you to be able to locate the parts that you need. But as you can see, there are not very many parts, and so consequently, of course, the instructions are not particularly detailed. Let's put it like that. So we start pretty much as ever with the assembly of the cockpit frame or the cockpit tub assembly, and the bits and pieces are. It's not particularly detailed inside. The bits and pieces are quite easy to find. There's quite a lot of flash on this particular frame, so there's going to be a bit of work to be able to deal with that. But if I zero in on the, let's see if we can bring some light to bear on this, on the instrument panel, you will be able to see a little bit of the detail. I mean, I can see it reasonably clearly, but there is some inner detail. For example, on the artificial horizon, you can see the detailing here. Let's move that so that maybe you can see it. And what you're supposed to be able to see here is some levers here. That one is the flap lever, the other is the undercarriage lever. So it's a pneumatic hydraulic, or it's a hydraulic undercarriage with a pneumatic and CO2 based blowdown facility in case the thing wouldn't come down on its own. But what I'm going to try and do is introduce a couple of little levers into that there. The sides of the panels here, as you can see, of the cockpit, are completely devoid of any sort of detail at all, and on the port side we should be able to see the throttle slider. So the throttle on this, I understand, is unlike a throttle quadrant, which you might describe as a radial throttle. In other words, it's a circular, a device that moves the handle in a sort of circular motion like that. It's a linear, so back and forwards motion, in very much the same way as you would encounter in a Lightning, for example, or a Gloster Meteor. So I'm going to have to introduce that detail in. I'm going to introduce the detail on those two levers as well. I've not been able to find a photo etch upgrade set. I think there might be one, but I've not been able to find one yet. I might spend some money on such a thing if I did encounter one. But so far no good, I'm afraid, yet. But if you know of one, do please let me know in the comments, and I may very well be able to make use of it. So one thing that we can see here is that the control column is a fairly standard one for Spitfires and Hurricanes, and I think Typhoons and such like as well, in the sense that you have a spade grip here. The Meteor didn't have a spade grip, favoured moving towards a handle based arrangement. But again, this was a test aircraft, so they made do with what they had, as it were. So we'll be assembling that, and then we'll be placing that into its section either side. As you can see, there's not an awful lot of detail in here. I am acquiring a book to allow me to be able to look at this detail in perhaps a little bit or a little bit more closely, and I will look to add anything in that I can see that's obvious, probably some wires and bits and pieces. So I want there to be some detail in here, even though not much of it will be visible. We'll have to look out to make certain that we put some weight in the front here to ensure that we don't have a thing that sits on its tail. That would be irksome, I suspect. And I'm also going to detail a little bit more of the horizontal bars that sit on the air intake. Now, as you can see, the air intake had a splitter here that split the air through the two channels for the engine, and the bars there were to stop the engine from ingesting people who put their heads inside. It nearly had happened from time to time. So pretty much the whole of the aircraft assembly is there, so from wings all the way through. I propose to pay some attention to putting these things in and a fuselage, and then we'll dap the tail pipe on, and away we shall go. Not forgetting our weight, of course. I'll probably use some blue tack for that, I would think. and we'll need to make certain that we put the dihedral onto the wings, although I think that won't be an issue in the sense that the this is the wing section lower. There is a dihedral on that, so I don't think that's going to be an issue from that point of view. So the final section will be the front and rear undercarriage. So that's where your piece of photo etch comes in here, and that's it there. So those two sections are the as you can see here, this arrangement here, which was for steering the nose wheel, and these two support arrangements here, and it's fairly straightforward where these things go in. It's fairly obvious, so that shouldn't be an issue there, and they sit straight in the front. My understanding is that the inside was a RAF cockpit grey green or similar colour. I shall do some further research on that, but the latter version, the wheel well doors here were yellow inside and out, so the final section, section 4, will be the rear undercarriage, and then you will have something that looks a bit like that. So there are two colour schemes. There is the silver and then red brown. So red brown for the control surfaces, ailerons, elevators and rudder, and then silver for the aircraft itself, complete with these little lines which are available as a decal, as you can see, one for both sides. Now the reason for that is for the first 10 flights at RF Cranwell, which were the first flights, the aircraft was in its silver coloration, in its, shall we say, its base coloration, and wasn't anointed with the camouflage that we can see here. Let's just zero out so you can see the top of that box there, until after the aircraft were migrated from there to Edge Hill for its further trials. So the first engine, by the way, had an operational life of approximately 10 hours. So if you go for the silver variant, then you are looking at the very, very early stages, so you can date the stages for effectively within the first 10 flights, and this would be in the subsequent flights. And remember, of the two variants of the Pioneer, and they're calling it a Pioneer here, but of the two variants that were produced of the Pioneer, the second crashed and the first survives to this day in the Science Museum and is actually suspended from the ceiling of the Science Museum. So it's definitely worth remembering that. I will be doing 4041G, which is the first variant. And in terms of roundels and such like, I will probably be using the old faithful Display to produce some painted symbols. I think that would be the best way forward, to be honest with you. There we go. So that really concludes that part of it. We can have a quick look at the sprues. As I said, there's quite a lot of flash on there, but there isn't really a whole lot to look at, to be honest with you. The plastic has an odd feel to it that I've not sort of felt before. I don't think there's any release agent on this at all. The detailing on the surface is pretty good, I would say. The panel lines are quite light. Now, I'm inclined myself with these to, as a matter of fact, I'm inclined to slightly deepen these before painting them, and I would use one of these CMK saws. I've got a collection of these. I haven't got a tool to put them in, but then again, I tend not to use saws very much. But what I would do with this is just use the CMK saw and just, as you can see, draw it down the line using, there's two sets of teeth, the tighter TPI with the more teeth per inch, and then I will go to the other one. But I tend to go vertically to begin with, and then one side and then the other, and then just gently draw this down, which has the effect of slightly widening the the panel line, just so that when you paint it shows. It's an enhancement that I've done from time to time, and it seems to work, and thus far people haven't pointed and laughed, so I can assume that maybe it works okay. So I will be adjusting those slightly, but that concludes really that little review of this this rather nice little kit, which I will build and then present to the individual that's asked me to build it for him. And I will probably put it on a diorama baseboard. I will simulate a concrete dispersal area, hard standing type thing. I have some other little ideas, but I may not go with them. But there we are, and I will do perhaps one shortish video on this of the build sequence, possibly one shortish one further of the painting, so that you can see it, and maybe a presentation of the final model, which will only be 4 or 5 minutes long, I suspect. But I do intend to show you what I've been spending my time doing with this, and there we are. So look, if you like what I do, tell other people. If you don't, tell me. I hope that you've enjoyed looking at this quick little review of this special hobby Pioneer, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one, and thanks very much for tuning in once again. Take care for now. Bye bye.